live from the Westfield shopping centre in East London at a time in which retailers are talking about a shaky start to the festive sales. New figures show sluggish retail sales in the run-up to Christmas in what's normally the busiest shopping period of the year. We'll hear from the cosmetics firm Lush to hear whether their bath bombs are making their way into enough people's stockings. Plus, we'll gauge the festive spirit and hospitality and ask how the sector is adapting to changes laid out in the autumn budgets. And all this coming from Westfield in East London, one of the largest shopping centres in the country, on the weekend just before Christmas. Yeah, very good morning and welcome to Business Live. As I say, here from Westfield in Stratford, East London, a sprawling complex of dozens and dozens of retail shops, restaurants, cinema, bowling alley. It's effectively got it all. It's a mecca, if you like, for shopping, and thousands of people will stream into this shopping centre and indeed to high streets up and down the country this weekend to try and do some last-minute Christmas shopping. But it comes at a time in which retailers are warning of a shaky start to the festive season, with new figures out this morning showing a surprising low sales in November, which is normally one of the best performing months. Let's just talk you through the figures from the Office for National Statistics, which showed that sales rose 0.2% last month, despite discounting events in the run-up to Black Friday. It follows a fall of 0.7% in October. So those figures are better than obviously the previous month, but just below expectations of 0.5%, and a bit concerning given that this is such a crucial period of time for retailers, though the expectation is that on average we will spend some £426 this Christmas, which way well exceeds the previous high back in 2021. Well, let's get more on all of this and speak to Ashley Armstrong, who's the business editor of The Sun and joins me here in East London. Very good morning to you,
Hi, morning.
Ashley. You know what? It is starting to fill up in here. It is a crucial weekend, isn't it, for retailers?
It is, and this is kind of like the make or break for many retailers, particularly, as you said, the retail sales in November weren't that great. You know, it was better than October, considering the heavy discounts that were already on offer, because whilst those ONS figures don't include Black Friday, that specific weekend, we know that actually those promotions were lasting the whole of November. So what retailers really want is people to be spending over Saturday and Sunday. We know that something like $3 billion is expected to be spent in the next couple of days, and that's those last-minute presents. But particularly clothing retailers, and there's plenty of them here, they're going to be really trying to get them in. Because,
well, that's the really interesting thing, isn't it, actually? That it is clothing sales that have been a real drag, not just in November, but in October and September too.
Yeah, totally, and it speaks to that kind of discretionary spending. You know, we know that essential spending has been up. We know that last month, actually, food sales were the big driver, and actually the only real driver of growth, and maybe a few electrical gadgets, but clothing and footwear sales were down. And especially if you look at kind of the discounts that are already on offer, on my way through I noticed a number of hefty, massive signs on promotions, and online there's already 70% off at a number of retailers.
And you say this is make and break because effectively for some retailers half of their annual 100%. Sales will come, won't they, from this period?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the kind of peculiarities of toy retailers, which make like 70% of their sales in December, but yes, definitely, it really is. And if you think of all those kind of like knickknacks and things like that that go into stocking fillers, it's a huge profit driver for them. But we know that customers and Brits are just feeling a bit more cautious about their spending. We know that some people are doing Secret Santa to cut down on how many presents they're buying. But yeah, we know that retail is tough. And you know, we've heard from the likes of Shoe Zone already this week saying that actually this wall of costs that's going to hit them in the new year means that their shops are going to be unviable, there's going to be closures. We had Sports Direct owner Fraser's Group really reducing their profit expectations on the back of all these profit costs. So it really is important for them to get as much cash through the tills so that they've got more, more of a buffer when all these costs come.
Okay, Ashley, for the time being, thank you very much indeed. Ashley Armstrong there from The Sun. Well, I have been out and about here in Westfield trying to gauge the reaction of shoppers at this festive time. Are they going out spending money? Let's have a listen to what the people here in East London had to say to me a little earlier.
I mean, you see it in the supermarkets as well, with the cost of the food. You know, like what people doing food
I think
for like
people's
8p.
priorities for spending money have changed somewhat.
You excited about Christmas?
No.
You're not? Oh no, why not?
Because it's so expensive.
Oh really? And have you found it more expensive this year?
Yeah, so much so. I'm doing all my Christmas shopping while Westfield is empty.
Yes, that's a good idea. Okay, thank you. Merry Christmas. So can I just ask you a quick question? Just Darren from Sky, are you excited about Christmas?
Would it be horrible to say no?
Are you really not?
No, not yet. I will be. Once I finish work, I'll be fine.
Have you done all your Christmas shopping?
Yes, all done and all wrapped.
Oh wow, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Do you think people are spending more money this year?
No. So you can see it's a lot quieter. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I just think people have got more to spend their money on at the moment than presents.
You're a big Christmas fan?
I am indeed.
Good, so am I. Have you got your Christmas shopping all done?
No, that's why I'm here.
Today's the big day,
Today
is
is
it?
the big day, yeah.
And do you think people are spending more or less money this year?
Maybe less. Things are a bit harder this year, yeah.
I'd say it's about the same. I'm sorry, the shops are, if you were here yesterday, it was rammed. So I'm sure the tills were ringing and dinging.
So you think people are spending money then?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. It's very exciting though, I like Christmas.
So do I.
It's all right. I think we can be a bit more festive than that, can't we, about this? Because, as I say, it's so important to our economy. I think some £30 billion is expected to be spent this year in the run-up to Christmas. That is an enormous sum of money. Let's bring in the General Manager here of Stratford's Westfield, and that is Chris Betts. Chris,
Hello.
very good morning to you.
Morning.
And the shopping centre is already starting to fill up. This place gets very busy, particularly at this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last 6 weeks, basically through November to now, we've seen 9 million visitors come through both Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. So there's certainly a buzz around the centre at the moment in terms of footfall. Now that's transcended into sales across the centre for sure.
And we were talking earlier, I don't know if you saw about the retail figures. You know, they've not been great over the last couple of months. Have you seen that anecdotally here?
Well, our November numbers haven't landed just yet.
Okay.
What I will say is if I reflect back on to Black Friday weekend as an example, footfall was up around 4%. And anecdotally, through conversations with our tenants, we see that there was some double-digit growth in some sectors, which is great. We've seen categories like health and beauty, fashion and tech certainly being a really strong period for this time of year, and we see that transcending into this weekend, obviously.
And you look at kind of the pressures that are on retailers. We know that people are a bit less willing to spend money because of the cost of living crisis. But there is still a sense, I think maybe at Christmas, correct me if I'm wrong, that people do want to physically go out shopping. It is an experience in itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you've only got to look at Westfield London as an example. We opened our ice rink sponsored by Disney in celebration of Moana 2. We've had 25,000 people glide across that ice rink. Our Elf Town Santa experience sold out by the 7th of December when we went live with that as well.
But isn't that interesting? Is it that to get people into the physical shops, you need to offer them more in terms of ice rinks or entertainment?
Well, I think we're more than a destination for shopping, and I think that's the important thing to note. You mentioned earlier about cinema. You've got Gravity opened here in Stratford. We've had so much change in the assets, so I think driving people to the centre has been great, but that change in kind of the retail space, the offer that we've got, has just meant that there's been confidence within it.
And Chris, talk to me though about the pressures, because, you know, as I say, there's pressures on retailers, but there's also big tax increases.
Yeah.
You know, you employ people next year.
Yeah.
What does that mean for your business, the minimum wage increase, the tax hike in national insurance?
Yeah, of course. There's nothing getting away that the pressures this year in 2024 have been challenging. I think as we go into 2025, the inflation increase is going to impact kind of consumer behaviours as well. And obviously from a business, we're focusing on it to making sure that we are meeting London living wage with our contracts, etc. So it's certainly a focus for us throughout 2025.
Does that mean in real terms, though, maybe employing fewer people, or what does that look? Or have you got the ability to absorb that cost?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, ultimately, there's efficiencies that we will always look through. But yeah, from our people perspective, you know, we are maintaining our employment in terms of the space.
Okay, and just finally on this, you know trends and you see things. What's in this Christmas? What do you see people particularly going
Huge
for?
variety of things, I'll be honest with you. Just from a food and beverage perspective, behind you, Wingstop it's been unbelievable. But yeah, the trends are changing, and we're seeing tech as an example leading into Christmas, health and beauty being a huge piece.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much indeed. Chris Betts there from Stratford here in East London. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So there you go, that's a reflection, I think, on the fact that footfall does seem to be up. People are expected to spend more money this Christmas. In fact, it could be a record Christmas. The last one was in 2021. But at the same time, there are those pressures, particularly coming around the corner when it comes to tax. And I've been out and about with some of the retailers here in Westfield, looking at what effectively they're doing in the run-up to Christmas and trying to get involved, if you like. Have a look. Well, welcome to Lush, and I have to be a bit honest here, I've actually never been in Lush in my entire life, though frankly it does smell good. Sells everything from creams to things for your bath to cosmetics. Clearly quite popular this time of the year, and it's got lots of festive stuff. These are bath bombs. I'm sure lots of people know what a bath bomb is. It explodes in your bath. Makes it smell very, very nice. I think the adage is, if it smells, these guys sell it, including, and I'm told this is what everyone's after this year, Sticky Date body spray. Oh, I spread a lot there. That does smell like sticky dates. I'm not entirely sure I'd want to smell like sticky dates, but it does smell quite good. Anyway, these guys are big business. They employ thousands of people. And like lots of businesses across the country, they're going to have to get used to big tax hikes next year. And that is why weekends like this are super important for them, because they need to earn money this weekend to sustain them into 2025. And it is a similar story in the hospitality industry, food and drink, if you like, which is so instrumental, so fundamental to the UK economy. It employs millions of people, is worth hundreds of billions of pounds a year. And there is no time more important than December, with people eating out and drinking more, socialising more, if you like. And that's why this crucial build-up to Christmas is important to the food and drinks sector. But it is also, and there are concerns here as well, about what's going to happen next year with the increase in the minimum wage. This is a very human resource industry, if you like, and also that national insurance hike. Will it mean that companies will employ fewer people? So uncertainty going into next year. What they're hoping for, though, is a bumper Christmas. Many restaurants, pubs, hotel chains feel that they need that to get through to 2025. There you go, that is a little taste of what's going on here in Westfield in East London. Well, let's get more from the coalface, if you like, of retail and hospitality. Bringing my next two guests. They are Sophie Watson from the cosmetic store Lush that I've just been in, and the Strategic Affairs Director at UK Hospitality, that's Tony Sophocleidis. Thank you very much indeed, both, for joining us. How's this year been for Lush? Or this festive period, I should say.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous festive season for us. We've just had a really amazing November, up 10%, our biggest Black Friday. We launched our Wicked collaboration, which brought loads of new, fresh customers into the space, including Jeff Goldblum and Ariana Grande's family. So they also shop with us. So very encouraging festive season.
In saying that, as I said, the retail figures are not looking great today. Is there a sense that if it's not happening in Lush in particular, that actually the high street's not quite as alive as it could have been?
I don't agree with that. Okay. I think the bricks and mortar, I think that face-to-face retail it's a staple for people, and it's so important. And I think what we really offer is an experience that you can't get online or digital. So I think people are still hungry for that face-to-face customer experience. Okay,
well, one thing that people are hungry for is food and drink at this time of the year, isn't it, Tony? How have you found 2024?
Well, I mean, we're pretty optimistic because, for a start, it's the first time in 5 years that we haven't had disruption through either rail strikes or, of course, COVID. And also, it needs to be a good one because the costs that are coming down the line for us in April, not least in employer national insurance contribution, which hits the sector disproportionately hard, means that we have to have a good season here. It's, for many venues, the revenue made, and it can be up to 30% of annual revenues at this time. is often crucial to take venues through the sort of fallow months of January and February where people aren't out quite so much. So we're really pleased that it looks as though we're having an uninterrupted and good festive period.
And have you any sense that this year people are, because there's been a cost of living crisis that has subsided somewhat, that they are going out and eating and drinking in this festive period?
It's probably better than we expected.
Okay.
We're not having parties about it ourselves yet, but it's looking healthy. It's looking good, and it's great that places like this and hopefully replicated in other high streets. Retail and hospitality are sort of helping each other out. People go buy their stuff in Lush, go for a pint or go for a meal. It mixes it up. It makes it a far better experience, a far more festive feeling.
Yeah, and is that the point now that in order to kind of get people to physically come out when the weather's not necessarily very nice, is to effectively give them an all-round experience?
Yeah, 100%. I think we like to describe ourselves as an oasis of kindness on the high street. And I know that Christmas shopping and that sort of festive shopping could be really stressful for people, but we want to spark the joy in it as well. So making sure that when people come to our spaces, they have like the easiest experience, but also a really pleasurable one. And working with hospitality as well, exactly as you said,
Okay, well, let's pick up on some of the slightly tougher points, if you like. There are these changes to tax coming down the line and that sort of stuff, and there is pressure on retailers. I know there's a story about Lush this week, about hiring freelance staff who might not have all the rights. Do you feel that companies like Lush need to do that in order to keep costs kind of down?
I mean, in all honesty, I've worked for Lush for 9 years now, and that's not a way that I've recruited within Lush, so I don't know a huge amount about that.
That's absolutely fair, but a recognition that going forward, things might be a little bit tougher.
I mean, as a recruiter for the Covent Garden site, and prior to that I worked in Brighton, there's always been a huge demand for people to want to work for Lush. I think we offer a really amazing staff experience, so it's not something that I've seen.
Okay, but it is something you picked up on, Tony. You know what, it is, as I was saying in my little piece earlier, hospitality, incredibly human resource heavy, and there's going to be very significant costs coming in April of next year.
Unless action is taken, it's going to be, as I say, £3.4 billion extra costs for the sector, and that's we're happy to pay good wages. I mean, we do need to attract people to hospitality. Where the bite really comes is the threshold of national insurance contributions from employers has come down, bringing a lot of entry-level income workers and especially part-time workers into that, to have the employment contributions for the first time. So that's a new cost altogether, and there's no sort of sliding scale on that. So disproportionately, lower paid and part-time workers will be hit the most. And that's going to have a knock-on effect, already having an effect of planning, not only in investment and refurbs and stuff like that, but also recruitment for the future as well.
Okay, and just very finally on this, what is big this Christmas? I don't know if you saw I was trying some sticky date thing, I think, which I personally wasn't convinced about. Clearly people are. I assume that's doing very well and lots of other things.
It's doing tremendously well. The Snow Fairy is always a big fan favourite this year, and we've got so many amazing gifts to find that in, but the gourmand trend, so things like super milk and sticky dates have been reigning supreme, but we're a big gifting store, so if anyone is still looking to get those last minute gifts, we're here.
And just very finally, Tony, when do you have a Christmas party, given the fact that this is your busiest
January.
January. That's not a bad idea.
Mid-Jan, yeah. It's big though.
It is. Tony, Sophie, thank you very much indeed for joining us. So that's what it's like on the coalface. Clearly retailers, anecdotally it does feel in December that sales are doing pretty well. Footfall seems to be up a little bit, so it's not dire by any estimations. In fact, this Christmas in many ways might be quite good for them, but there are those long-term concerns going down the line with those tax increases and the impact that can have on hospitality, on retailers and others. Okay, you're watching Business Live here on Sky News. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, though, we're going to be looking back at the year that's just been and forward to 2025 and what it means for the wider British economy on the last edition of Business Live this year. Stay tuned.
Prime Minister Modi is the most popular politician competition in the country. He is expected to win his third term in these elections.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party, a promise fulfilled. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
He paid over 50,000 to traffickers to get him to America. Instead, he was kidnapped, tied up and threatened by smugglers. A commando from the state force walks me through to a Mai Tai village on the front line.
Firing to civilians and they're burning our house.
We cross to the opposite side, held by the cookies.
When they fire, we have to retaliate.
Sky News, get the full story first. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration.
The enthusiasm is palpable. The young desire change.
These elections are a pivotal moment for the country's economic and political history. The concern here is that the public healthcare system is inadequate.
In a prayer, she's asking God to help understand what happened. I cannot carry on. God, help me. He says his world has crashed. Like him, there are scores of families searching for their loved ones.
Too often have families endured such tragedies for the negligence not only by the administration, but also by spiritual people in this country. Free wherever you get your news. Even though it has few seats in Parliament, Kashmir is symbolic and very significant. It's often been called a nuclear flashpoint.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
1,500 movies? I don't want this flight to end. Fly Emirates, fly better.
Very welcome back to Business Live here from the Westfield shopping centre, one of the largest shopping centres in the country in East London. There are thousands and thousands of people pouring in here today to do some last-minute shopping on what could be the busiest weekend of the year for retailers. Anyway, let's have a look at the wider economy as we end this year and bring in two special guests. Let's speak to Simon French, Chief Economist and Head of Research at the investment bank Panmure Liberum. Very good morning to you, Simon, and Ashley Armstrong from The Sun is back. And Simon, let's start with you. We were just looking at the markets there and there's been no big Santa Christmas rally, has there?
No, there hasn't. There's quite a lot of growth doubts around the world. There's obvious doubts on what a new Trump administration might do to the US economy, indeed to the world economy. There's a standoff in Washington around the budget process. There's a lot of reason for investors to take a bit of money off the table, but let's put this in its correct context. Global shares are up, 20% this year. It's been a strong year for equities overall, but it hasn't been this seasonal rally that we pretty normally get at this time of year.
In saying that, on a macro level, if you look at the UK economy, the data that comes out now on a daily, almost weekly basis, it's not great.
It's not at all. There's expectations of very little growth in the fourth quarter of the year. And the outlook for next year, I think there's some green shoots associated with public sector spending, expected to come on stream after the spending review reports in the early summer. But overall consumer sentiment, it's pretty cautious right now. The headlines there we've heard since the budget have really hit sentiment to do big ticket item purchases, the thing that kind of drives economic momentum. And so while actually household balance sheets are in not bad shape, they're certainly not as bad as they were in the teeth of the cost of living crisis in 22, 23, if you like, the confidence to go out and spend some of that balance sheet strength is just not there.
And that's a really interesting thing here, actually, is in, as I was saying just before the break, things aren't dire by any estimation. I mean, there are lots of businesses doing quite well.
Yeah, they're not dire, but they're not brilliant either. And I think that's it. We've kind of been conditioned into kind of this kind of buffeting between kind of 0 point growth, 0 point negativity. And whilst consumers are better, we have seen wage growth. It's not like we're in deflation either. So heating bills, we know that they're going up again. We know water bills from yesterday's Ofwat announcement are going up again. We know that kind of there's going to be other things. People aren't getting their winter fuel payments. So there's so much negativity around in terms of people know that there's going to be more pressures coming on their household budgets, that they are feeling a bit more nervous. And we know definitely on business side, we know that there's those warnings about job cuts coming. So people aren't feeling that chipper.
And let's talk about the city, if you like, and the FTSE, and you contrast what's happening in the United States. It's had another great year. What is the sense, when you look at how well London's performing?
Well, the stock market is not really an assessment of the UK economy overall. About 80% of its revenues come from overseas. But what absolutely is undermining the health of our own stock market is the allocation of pension funds to our domestic market. They've seen a period of underperformance, partly attributed to Brexit, partly because of regulation, partly the tax changes of the last 25, 30 years. Some of the chickens have come home to roost in terms of the growth orientation of that market, the sentiment towards that market. Now, there is an ongoing pensions review. It's quite a contentious pensions review to see whether pension funds should allocate more in return for $55 billion of tax relief. But it's not going to come quickly to reinvigorate activity in London. OK, and just very finally, and I haven't given you any warning about this, which I probably should have done, but in 10 seconds, you can say, what's the one thing we should look out for in 2025?
Oh, gosh, no more elections, I think. I think that there's that kind of, that's
so
the
political
reason to be
stability.
I mean, at least we kind of know what we've got.
OK, Simon?
I think I'd agree with that. You have a consumer who's quite battle weary from a lot of negative headlines. You get a period of stability. Actually, I think you'll see with interest rates coming down, you'll actually see the consumer pick up their sort of sentiment going into next year.
OK, Simon and Ashley, as always, thank you very much indeed. And Merry Christmas. Just realised I didn't thank all the rest of my guests with a Merry Christmas, but Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you very much indeed. That is it for Business Live for today, here in the Westfield Shopping Centre in East London. Good luck to all of you. And I'm sure there are millions of you heading out this weekend to do your Christmas shopping. It's frantic, but I think on the whole, it's quite a lot of festive fun, isn't it? Well, as I say, that is it for Business Live, not just for this morning, but indeed for this year. Thank you for joining us this year. We'll be back, of course, in January. Stay tuned. The very latest news coming up at the top of the hour. From me and all the team, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.